You're listening to the Talkative Introvert podcast. Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa, and I am the host of the Talkative Introvert podcast. If you're new here, thanks for checking us out. If you're not new here, welcome back. Today, I have a guest speaker on with me. So I am joined by Sarah Bryer. Sarah is a coach and mentor known best for her work raising awareness and understanding of introverted people. She has dedicated herself to helping individuals unlock their true potential, raising confidence and embracing their authentic selves. Sarah brings a wealth of personal experiences and insights to her speaking events and has worked with introverts extensively for the last 4 years and understands the challenges that introverts face in a world that often values extroverted qualities. So, welcome, Sarah. Thanks for coming on to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's delightful.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about kind of like what that is, what's the coaching and mentoring aspect is. And, but before we get to that, so I do like to ask my guests typically, whether they're an introvert, extrovert, or ambivert, which is, somewhere in the middle, but I'm assuming because of your line of work, you're maybe an introvert. Is it safe to say that? No. Oh,
No.
okay.
There's a whole story about the reasons why.
Okay.
I can go into if you like, but no, I'm a card-carrying, super extroverted human.
Okay.
Which I guess is a surprise, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. A little bit, yeah. Because that makes it a little interesting. So you are an extrovert. So what got you into coaching introverts then?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Melissa. So I'd before the pandemic, about a year before the pandemic started, I started a new job, and my team, unbeknownst to me at the time, didn't really understand the differences between. I didn't really know extrovert, introvert. I didn't really understand it. I didn't really know what the differences were. But I started with this new team, and this whole team were data analysts, and with this group of data analysts, they were typically, as I know now, introverted people, and they were all brilliant at their job, really good humans, but everything that I would normally do to motivate a team just didn't work with them. So, like for me, you just hold up a biscuit and you go, come on, do this thing, and I go, yeah, okay, I'll do it. But with my introverted team, they're like, yeah, but why am I doing it? Give me the real reasons. Give me the value proposition. Tell me what I'm doing this for. And I was so frustrated because I couldn't get them to do the things that I could normally get a team to do. And then I figured out, we did some kind of, sort of personality test type things, and figured out that all of my team were introverted people. And then I did a bunch of reading. So I listened to TED Talks, read books, blogs, listen to people like you, Melissa, and like try to understand who are these people and how are they different to me. And through that, I managed to get this team motivated, but not just that. I helped them get noticed. But what was important to me was not to, and they couldn't do the things the way that I would do it. So I couldn't just say to them, oh, it's okay, just do what I do, because it doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel real. And that group of people would just be like, hell no. As you can imagine, Melissa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, just imagine the room naked. It doesn't work for introverted people, because there's got to be a deeper meaning. And so the things that I helped the team with was kind of work with who they are already, the thing that they wanted to achieve, and to figure out a really great way as an introverted person to be able to achieve that. So whether it was getting noticed, one of my team was a project manager, and she was brilliant, but she couldn't get people to do what she wanted. So I helped her with, like building relationships, and we talked about the extroverted way and how I would do things. And we talk about how she would do it and what would be comfortable for her, and planning these kind of, activities that she would need to do so that she felt really good about it. And the year that I spent with that team was a great year. One of my team got promoted. She got a big fat pay rise. Another one was running these team meetings like she was the boss. So then when I lost my job, it was in the pandemic, I thought to myself, I wonder whether I could do that, but loads of times. And then a few years later, here I am.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, I think people forget that there are different types of people. I think a lot of us introverts end up faking it till you make it, right? We fake our extroversion, like what we said earlier, introverts facing, a world that often values extroverted qualities, so it it causes us to fake the extroversion. And like you working with your team of introverts, like do you really see that? How, like, do you really like witness and experience that we truly do value extroverted qualities?
Yeah, 100%. And I think part of it is that, and this is not me talking myself down, but I'm not particularly smart, Melissa. I'm not academic. Like
Mm-hmm.
I I know that I got somewhere really great in my career because of my personality.
Mm.
Because I would be the one that go, oh, I'll put my hand up and go, I'll do it. Or, yeah, I'll go and do that presentation. Not because I wasn't scared, but because it fit with my extroverted personality, that need to sort of perform. And not because I was always confident. A lot of the time I was cacking myself. And I still had to go through those confidence things, but it just looked very different. My lack of confidence makes me get louder, whereas with an introverted person, it makes them get quieter quite often. What it looks like is the extroverted person is more confident because the person that's talking the loudest looks more confident. And I think I know from my own, and I think it's why I'm so passionate about it, is that, when I was a kid, I was told to be quiet, too loud, be quiet, not enough, too much, too much, too much. And what I notice of a lot of the introverted clients that I've had is that they've been misled. They've been told that they're shy since they were kids. Oh, she's shy. Don't ask her to do that. She's shy. No, 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 he won't do that because he's shy. And then these kids grow into adults who then believe this story that they've been told that they are shy, when they're not shy at all. They're just quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because it happened to me, but in a different way, it's sort of like I've managed to, I suppose, get the best out of my extroversion. But with introverted people, it's a lot harder to, because you've got these labels around you, that this shy, boring, loner. There's all these like stereotypical words that are really unpleasant,
Yeah.
and I
Mm-hmm.
think it frustrates me so much, especially because the group of people I was talking about was so smart, real smart, just like you, Melissa, like real smart people who, because they don't stand on a chair and go, hey, look at me, I've done this great thing today, they got overlooked. They got passed over for promotions because they weren't standing there. Until I came along and I was like, hey, waving my arms in the air, come and look at my team. So I kind of did it for them. But yeah, I do really believe that the world values extroversion. When you look at social media, um, a lot of some of the people that I work with, they own their own business, and some of the trouble that they have is visibility. Being doing videos, or putting their photographs up online and stuff, because they're just a bit more private. But, for social media, we value this extroverted qualities again. Look at me, look at me. And it leads that group of people to miss out.
Yeah. Yeah. Social media is like, I mean, it is socializing. So it's very draining. It makes me tired and makes like, that's why I don't really post that often. And I don't do the whole, I don't do reels really. I mean, I post like, my podcast and stuff like that, but I don't do like TikTok dances or or talk to the camera very often or like do anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I agree. It's because extroversion, like people are just attracted to that. They're attracted to the, like you said, the confidence, the people talking, like, they turn heads, they get noticed. And um introverts, we're just quiet. Yeah, like we're not all shy, like you said. Like today, so I had to drop off my car to the shop, and the shop owner drove me home. And I don't ever start the conversation, but man, the moment he started talking to me, I didn't stop, and I was like, that's your fault, you should have started talking to me. But he seemed to enjoy, he seems like an extrovert, he likes talking to people. And I think that's what makes him a great shop owner too, is that he is personable and talks to the customers and stuff like that. But yeah, I think there is a lot of misconception. We're not all shy, just we're not the initiators, most of the time.
And even when you're talking about, you go to this might happen to you where you've worked before, Miss, or you might have seen this, like, you get people into a team meeting, and nobody tells you what the team meeting's about. Everyone has to just immediately perform.
Mhm.
This happens a lot. It's why meetings feel like such a waste of time for a lot of people. And one of the things about being an introvert is that you think in your head before you speak. As an extrovert, I speak to think. So if you ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, I immediately start talking. It gets my cogs moving. But my first two sentences are nonsense. And I was listening to a podcast the other day. I don't know whether you listen to the Diary of a CEO.
Okay.
You ever see that? Do you know Stephen Bartlett?
No, I haven't heard about that one.
So there's this guy. He does these podcasts with really sort of famous people, and you can tell who the extroverts are because they start talking really quickly, but their first couple of sentences are just nonsense.
Mhm.
It's like their brain is getting into gear. And if you think about like a team meeting in your office, that somebody asks a question, your extrovert will start talking immediately because it's how they get their brain working. But then the introvert is sat there thinking about their answer. Introverts are more prone to perfectionism, that attention to detail that is so wonderful about them. But they're getting the thoughts straight in their head before they start speaking. But then what happens often is that by the time they've formulated the thought, the moment has gone. So then your introverted person starts to feel like, oh well, maybe I don't have anything to give to this meeting, when you totally do. The people that are running the meeting are like, oh, well, they're quiet. Why haven't they said anything? Like maybe there's something wrong with them, or, they haven't got any opinions or whatever. And really, what you have is if you give that introvert 10 or 15 minutes, they'll come back with a 10 times better idea than the extrovert did, but they've just had time to think it through.
I think that's one of my challenges as a supervisor, is that like people who aren't supervisors, I think they don't realize that, like, yes, we don't do the job necessarily as much as we used to, but everything is a decision. We always have to, we're constantly making decisions, and sometimes it's on the spot. And I struggle with that a lot. And I tend to use the, let me digest this and get back to you. Like, I'll circle back to you because I don't want to make the wrong decision, but there are people who will just say yes or no, or like come up with something really quick. And, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, but I like everything that I have to be calculated. I like my answers to be like informed and educated and not just like saying something just for the sake of saying something just because the other manager said something, you know. And so I think a lot of introverts may experience this, but I'm constantly advocating for myself too, to like let them know, like, you know, I'm not ready to make this decision right now. I need to circle back to you. Which when I first started, I was like really nervous and like anxious and felt bad doing that. But now that I've like, you know, I've been at it for a while, I realize like, you know, it's not a big deal. People will be just fine. You know, work will always be there, and it's okay to wait like a day, or, you know, nothing's gonna, especially in my line of work, like no one's gonna die if I wait a day to make a decision. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, there's a lot of that. But like kind of going back to your coaching mentoring thing, like what is it real, like what is specifically clients are seeking out from you?
So a lot of the time it's the I suppose sometimes it is the who am I? You know, like the being told that you're shy for your entire life. A lot of the time it is to do with confidence, and that, you know, confidence to make decisions, to be able to be like you, Melissa, and to be able to go, I need a day, and just be okay with that. But you know, these people have grown up. You know, you've obviously got your talkative introvert podcast. You know what it means to be an introvert, when a lot of people don't. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was talking to a lady who, she came to one of my talks at a venue that I did about a year ago, and she was in her 60s, and I was explaining the differences between introverts and extroverts. And she said, you've completely opened my eyes. Now I get why me and my daughter struggle with each other. She's extroverted, I'm introverted. And this lady was in her 60s. And, you know, whoever I talked to, from being, you know, 18 up until, you know, somebody in their 60s, they don't seem to get like what that means to be an introvert, how it might have held them back, how they can be confident in doing things, because I help people like apply for jobs. And what I know about introverted people is that it takes them a long time to apply for a job. Like for me, I look at a job description, I go, yeah, okay, I'm going to apply for it. An introverted person is more likely to take the time to read over the job description, to really pick it apart and go, I don't know whether I can do that job because it's asked me for these 10 things. Especially for women, women are most likely to apply for a job when they can see 90-95% of what they can do in a job description, whereas men, maybe they can do half of it and they'll apply for the job. You know, you pop introvert in there as well, and it's more of a challenge. And so just trying to help people understand themselves, understand what it means to be an introvert, and what the confidence part of it is. Because if you can split those two things up and say, well, you behave like that because you're an introvert, you take your time to make those decisions because you're an introvert, there's nothing wrong with you. I will make a snap decision because that's just who I am. And that's okay for me, you know, but I'm not operating on people. I'm not, you know, I'm not doing anything that's going to kill anybody. You know, and I suppose when you think about the types of jobs that introverted people do, they are leaning towards the more detailed jobs, the things where you need to make careful decisions. That is why they're in those jobs. You won't put an idiot like me in front of, like, you know, some kind of brain surgery. You know, it's just, it wouldn't be my bag. But really helping people understand the differences between what is it to be confident and what is it to be an introverted person. Because what they see is, I want to be like you, Sarah. Like how you show up on social media, I want to be able to do that. Well, you can't, because I turn the camera on and I just start waffling, you know, and that's okay. But for an introverted person, you're not going to be able to do that a lot of the time, you know, unless you're really practiced at it. You know, I know a good couple of introverts that have got, they've got really good businesses that they use social media for, but in the main, you know, they will struggle with that.
I'm glad you like recognize that because I'm not gonna lie. So I'm naturally a skeptical person. I'm skeptical of everything and everyone. And so earlier when I asked you if you know what you were and you said you were extroverted, I was like, okay, so is this a coach that's gonna try to make you more extroverted? So I really do appreciate that you recognize that there is a difference and that it's not the same. You can't treat them the same or like mentor them the same way. Because yeah, that was one of my biggest worries. I was like, oh, I didn't know she was an extrovert. Like,
I think, Melissa, it is the thing that really helps me stand out to people because a lot of introverted people will say, like, I like being around your energy. Because I think sometimes, there are a lot of introverted coaches that help introverted people, which is
yeah,
fine. But if you're, what I can show you is I can show you how I deal with the world and I can show you how I see the world so that, when you might look at me going on a stage and be like, oh my God, she's so confident. When I'll tell you, really, I was absolutely crapping myself before I got on the stage. My hands were shaking and I just made my voice louder because that's what helps me be confident. And and I think it's almost like for introverted people looking behind the curtain. I'm showing you like what extroversion looks like. It looks like the ideal, but it's really not. It's we still have the same kind of confidence problems. We still have these things that people tell us that where we don't feel good enough because a lot of the times we're not you know technically smart. We're people smart, and I think when I can talk to introverted people about what it's like to be an extrovert and that it's not ideal, the world sees it as ideal, but these are the reasons why. I think it helps people and helps me to help them because this is not ideal. Like, I don't think the way that I do things is ideal. I think introverts are amazing people, often because they're so smart, and I love that. And just to I guess, and I think it is all of the learning that I've done, Melissa, to be fair, that, I've studied and I read personality profiles and I kind of, probably, do stuff that's not typically extroverted to understand so that I don't make people feel like they should be something else, but that you're happy the way you are. And actually, you just have to, if there was a thing that you wanted to do for you, Melissa, say that you wanted to go on social media every day, I would say to you, do you know that fantastic post that you wrote 3 months ago? Well, what we'll do is we'll cut it into 5 pieces and then we'll use that as 5 social media posts instead of you turning up every day on social media. If you wanted to do video on social media, we'd come up with a strategy where you could you could do what you wanted, but we do it in such a way that would feel energetically right for you, not actually turning up every day on social media.
yeah. I guess that was kind of one of my questions was kind of like the whole, what makes you qualified to be a coach for introverts because like I said, I was skeptical. And then when you said you're an extrovert, I was like, oh, she's going to make us want to be more extroverted and all this stuff. Cause, you know, I'll tell you a story. So, like, I had this coworker whose daughter was the same age as me, but we lived like I moved out at 18, had to be an adult after high school and whatever. But her and I are the same age and she wanted to be a life coach, but she still like lived at home. Her parents still paid for her bills. And she was going to college to be a life coach. And I was thinking, how can you be a life coach if you haven't truly lived life yet? Like how can you coach other adults if you yourself are still at home, your parents still take care of everything, all that stuff. And so, you know, um, I think that's what I was kind of worried about like coaches in general, like what makes them qualified. And for you, I think it's pretty awesome that you worked with people personally, and that you like did all these studies and or research, I guess you could say, research on all this stuff. But like, what else would you tell like someone who's skeptical of like going to?
And I think being a self-employed person, Melissa, like just on the internet, you can the best job, the job where you earn the most money is to be a coach that coaches coaches to coach. It's like scam central out there, and I am not qualified. Okay, I'm not qualified in anything, but I have 20 years of experience running teams, doing internal courses, looking after people, through births, marriages, deaths. And I was a crap manager, like back in the day, but 20 years, helps you be, because I always wanted to be better. If I just wanted to, run a workflow, I could run a workflow, but I wanted to be a good manager. I always wanted to be somebody that people could come to and know that I would, hold everything for them while they had a breakdown or, had to go off work for a few weeks because their grandma died, whatever they needed from me that I gave them. And, coming out of it, I was thinking about doing a coaching qualification. And what I saw was, in my opinion, a pyramid scheme,
Oh,
basically,
okay.
but where there's an organization that somebody has decided they are the leaders of coaching and that everyone must do this qualification. So you don't have to be qualified in anything in the UK to call yourself a coach. Um, but all of these people are qualified, like your girl from, that's the same age as you, that you go to school and you learn how to do this stuff. To me, that is ridiculous, because how do you know people? How I you haven't sat there and had somebody sit with you and cry for 2 hours because they've lost a baby, or you know any human situation that we might have gone through. You've never even left home, and you're helping. You ask a bunch of questions, and call yourself a coach. And I think it's a load of trash, if I'm
Yeah.
honest.
I know, I thought it was kind of weird. I was like, I didn't know you could even go to school for that. I didn't know there was a whole degree and you could get certified. I just, because I do value experience over, knowledge. Like my work right now, I have a degree in family and consumer science. My concentration's on family studies, which has absolutely zero to do with what I do now. Has nothing to do with my job, but I'm good at my job because of the experience that I had. And I feel like I kind of value that over the the piece of paper you spent thousands of dollars on, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, you can't, the even when you go to these sort of coaching, things, they're not talking to you about particular types of people. Like there are some people that I know that focus on people who are neurodiverse, autistic, ADHD, those sorts of things. You can't learn that in a classroom. You learn that by your children having these difficulties, or yourself or your partner, or what have you. And yeah, a lot of it is just a way, in my opinion, a way to get a ton of money out of people to teach them something. And women suffer from it so much, this kind of what they call imposter syndrome, where we feel like we don't know enough. So then we'll go and get the next certification. I know this lady who's got a degree, she's got a master's, she's done this course, that course, the other course, and she just doesn't believe that she's enough. That if she learns the next thing, then that will make her feel enough.
Mhm.
It feels like that these institutions are kind of just tapping into that with people and going, oh well, learn this. Here's another couple of $1,000. Here's another thing that you must learn. Buy this ebook. Buy this, and it's just a, one of the things that I was told was that I don't charge enough. right? Oh my God, I don't charge enough. And it became my problem that it's your money mindset, Sarah. You don't think big enough because you don't think you're worth it. And I thought for a while, oh my God, do I not think I'm worth it? Do I have a money mindset problem? But here you go, here's this course that will help you with your money mindset, right? And then I thought to myself, my money mindset isn't the problem. I don't want to charge people $2,000-$3,000 to do this course with me because I want to help people that were like me when I was in my 20s. They don't have $2,000 or $3,000. They have a little bit that maybe they can do something with, not this massive amount of money that feels ridiculous. I want to help people that are like halfway through their career, not the ones that are at the top. And yeah, it became, these things that you don't do. It's almost like another stick to beat you with.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point because like the people who make enough money may not even need the coaching. There might be like a small percentage, I don't know, that needs the coaching, and so it's really, um, yeah, it's kind of more like a younger crowd, right? Like a younger maybe hasn't like quite gotten it yet, that would need this kind of coaching, and so is it because you talk about like career a lot? Is that your main? Was that usually like the main focus for most people, or do they, focus on relationships or other stuff?
Mostly it kind of centers around like who they are at work. And I think because the workplace is, most people thrive, even if I don't know what your work culture is like, but here we'd have an accountant, right? And the accountant would typically be an introverted person. The accountant would go do the books. They would do the quiet, detailed work. But now we're asking the accountant to go and talk to clients. So now the client does the introverted work, but is expected to do the extroverted work. And it's almost like this kind of smush of two kinds of realities that you can't just do the job that you're really good at. You're now being asked to go and do something which is completely ridiculous to your personality. And so it seems like a lot of the times it focuses around career because introverted people get stuck because they don't apply for the jobs, they screw up their interviews because they're not prepared enough, or they don't come across. Um, well, I suppose it's preparation, isn't it? Like being prepared enough to talk about themselves because that doesn't come naturally. So all of those things kind of compound, and I think it's where I see it the most. And then sometimes you get this other stuff that appears in the other areas of their work, the other areas of their life, but mainly in their careers.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, most of us spend a majority of our day at work, and our work, it dictates how much money we make, and in essence, the type of lifestyle that we have. So it does make sense to focus on that, and it is a struggle.
I suppose it's the place that you probably can't just be yourself.
Yeah.
You're in the confines of somebody else's rules.
Mm-hmm.
Like at home, if your partner doesn't like you, then tough, off you go. But at work, if you've got a team member, or they've told you that you've got to come into the office 5 days a week or what have you, you don't really have a choice unless you leave.
Yeah. I know, like, yeah, that's absolutely true. Like, I made a joke one Halloween because I didn't know you were allowed to dress up for Halloween in the office. And someone's like, "Oh, Melissa, you didn't dress up." And I was like, "Oh, I'm dressed up. I'm work Melissa." You know, like I don't wear this outside of work. But it's true, it is a costume, right? It's something that you my work personality is not the same as my true genuine self, because you do, like, in this world that we live in, it is very much white collar. There's not very, we did a major switch like during like whatever, industrial, like past the industrial period or whatever that was. um where we go from like blue collar work to majority of us are now doing white collar work, and like white collar work is very much a show, you know. Like I was just talking to my friend the other day. I'm like, I do not understand how some of these people have climbed so high up the ladder but know so little, you know, or like does not do a great job, or not great at facilitating meetings or speaking. Not necessarily, no, they're good at speaking, but like it's just boggling how far people have climbed up the ladder but not truly understand their work or like the business, you know? And I do feel like it is that whoever speaks the loudest is like people think is the most right. Or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's exactly, this is why it's so important that introverted people understand themselves, understand what introversion is and what it isn't, and can advocate for themselves and to say, I need a day to think about that. Why? Because I'm introverted and that's the way I do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I pay attention to detail, the people that we rely on so much to like check contracts and to do our taxes and all of these things are introverted people. We pay them because of their attention to detail. And we, like people who are sending up space shuttles and that build our software. Software engineers, I think, are, cited as the most introverted bunch, on a scale of introversion, they're the most introverted. And we rely on these people because of their personality type. They do these jobs, and yet, we're so keen to promote the extroverted ideal. Introverts built Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a messaging you could message people through it, because introverts built it to communicate with people via message. Introverts built WhatsApp and all your messenger services, but yet we've turned them into something extroverted with video calling and putting videos up online and voice notes and all of that stuff. We've turned these things into extroverted pursuits because we can't just type these things because that's not good enough for extroverts.
It is more appealing, right? I think more people would rather watch like Instagram reels or TikTok videos than read an article. You know, a lot of like journalism, unfortunately, is dying, or at least good journalism, because people prefer to watch a YouTube video or like listen to a podcast instead of like actually, I don't know, be more like, yeah, I guess reading. They like the human aspect of it. They like hearing a human voice or seeing a human face. But I, if we didn't have to go back into the office, I would love to just be 100% telework. And it is pretty crazy how many people hate this. So, okay. So for California, the governor's office told us to go back into office twice a week, and people went wild. They did not like it. Some people are protesting. Some agencies just flat out are ignoring the mandate. Like people are just really upset. And I've really come to realize that, like, especially in IT, I think a majority of us are introverts. I think the extroverts are pretty obvious to point out because they tend to be like leadership roles, people who like to be in front of the camera or in front of people, um or the people who are in our social committees, like the ones that like, put the events together and do like the fun little, like happy Easter, Merry Christmas kind of like, stuff out. And they like to do the ice cream socials. um,
Yeah.
and then the people who attend the ice cream socials are usually the extroverts. There's not a whole lot of introverts there.
But just the flip side of that. So the whole world was locked down through COVID, right? So what happened to me was, from going from being a really social person, being in an office every day, my introverted team absolutely thrived. They were so delighted. that they didn't have to listen to people's crap all day. They
Uh-huh.
didn't have to make small talk with people. Oh my God, it was amazing. Me, on the other hand, about I think 6 or 8 months in, I burst into tears in a supermarket. I was talking to my doctor on the phone, and then he was like, "Sarah, I think you're depressed." And I was like, "I'm not depressed."
Yeah.
Because how could I be depressed? I
Mhm.
had nothing to be depressed about. Everything was fine. But I think the lack of social contact, the like the dehumanizing for me, it just wasn't enough. So it was almost like the complete flip side. And it's the same for introverted people, that you push them into too much peopling and they will just withdraw themselves even more. Um, and for the opposite for extroverted people. But I think a lot of the time what happens with introverted people is that we're asking them to be something that they're not.
Mhm.
We're asking them to come in to do the socials, to do these team meetings, to do these presentations, and pushing the accountants to go and talk to clients. And if I'm honest, in my opinion, it's why there is a lot of people who are suffering with anxiety and depression, because they cannot be themselves.
Mhm.
It's not okay for them to just be quiet in the corner. They're having to put on this mask, and they're having to put on this kind of coat of armor and fake it. And that is so exhausting. It's easy for me to fake stuff, easy peasy, just
Yeah.
turn it on. But for an introverted person, the integral cogs of your wheel about fairness and honesty and doing the right thing and all of that stuff is so critical to who you are as a person, that faking it is just, it's like an abomination.
No, I 100% agree. Like it's crazy because so during the pandemic, we all went to teleworking and we thrived. I was so productive, so much stuff got done. Even to this day, the days I am at home, even though we've just started going back, but I am more productive, both like personally and professionally. Like I'm able to do my work and still do a load of laundry. Like I can do it all. And it's crazy because they did do a survey, like a study of productivity during the pandemic once we started teleworking, and our production level just skyrocketed. Like it was amazing. And so we have this proof, like data that says how productive we are, but they are pushing and pushing for going back into office. Like some people are scared, like, okay, it's 2 days now, but then they're going to do 3 days, then 4 days, and then we're back to it. And people are just like worried, and it gives them anxiety. And like my coworkers have shared the anxiety. And so I think it's just really crazy, like, why we're pushing this, and they're trying to have this narrative like it's promoting collaboration, it's mending relationships, it's like it's creating the human interaction that all been missing. And it's like, who's missing it? Because if you like your coworkers, like I love my team, I have a great team, we go to happy hour, we get together, like we do it on our time, not like during work time. Cause a lot of us, we want to clock in, clock out, once work is done, it's done. We don't want to like add, like when you add the social aspect to it, like you're spending, I used to have this coworker and I love her to death. And I am really sad that because she's retiring soon, but she used to come to my cubicle and talk my ear off. And that's an hour like out of my day that I now have to make up, because she stopped by my cubicle. As much as I love her, but I also would rather be home with my family. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or at happy hour.
Yeah.
Um, but I think, like for younger people who need to find their first job, I think going into a working environment is good for them. It creates that kind of what is expected of you, how to be proactive. That if you're I'm sure that your to-do list is never empty, Melissa, but like when there's nothing else to do, you go and find something to do. But I think when you're younger and you don't have as much experience, that's a little bit harder. Um, for some people, I think they do need, I think everyone needs a level of human contact.
Yeah.
If you are quite, if you live on your own, you work at home on your own, and you don't really have many friends, the or family, going into work just gives you the enough human contact that you need to not feel alone in the world. Because even though introverts do love being alone, we all need some kind of human contact in our life.
Mm-hmm.
I think the pushing people back to the offices is all about money.
Yeah.
It's all about empty buildings not earning money, and it's a bit of a conspiracy.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are saying like downtown is empty, the restaurants are closing down, the cafes are closing down, they're, like the little mom and pop shops, no one's going in to grab something on their way to work or out of work. And, I can empathize with that because a lot of, good people lost their business. Cause of course, like the franchises or like the big shops, they have a ton of money, but the little ones, and I am glad that you pointed that out because as much as I hate going back to the office or like hate the idea of it, I do have to remember like we're not all introvert. Even though a lot of us are, I do need to also be mindful of the people who do need the human interactions, because that, like what you just said, just reminded me of a coworker that I had in a previous company, and he isn't from California, didn't have any friends. All his family, I think, was in the East Coast, and so his social group were his coworkers, and it's a very like niche group. Like I don't know, he was kind of just the one example I knew of, and it's maybe there's like a handful of people who are like that. It's very small, but I always forget about that part. But not everyone has like a husband or a wife or spouse or partner, whatever, to come home to. There are some of those people who rely on their job to give them the human interaction that they need.
Yeah, definitely. But the thing is, I think probably maybe the thing that you could take away, in my opinion, is that introverted people will not be as productive in the office.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop. And for the introverted people to accept that of themselves, that if you're doing a job where you would do 100 things at home, well, you're only going to be able to do 75.
Mm-hmm.
You will not be as productive at home. And for the introverted people not to beat themselves up about it, and not to feel like failures and like, oh my God, well, I must get 100 things done. No, 75 things done, and that will be enough, because Maud is going to be chewing your ear off for an hour. And, you're going to go to these ridiculous meetings that last 10 times longer than they need to. And for everyone to kind of be aware of that, productivity will go back to where it was before the pandemic. And so you either send people home or you suck it up,
Yeah.
rather than the introverted people having to work through their lunch break or whatever to get the productivity where it would be where they're at home.
Wait, say that again.
Like, rather than the introverted people thinking that they've got to get their productivity to where it was when they were at home, because it cannot happen. I think if you're trying to achieve that, you're going to end up stressing yourself out and burning out, because it's not possible.
Yeah.
And just to be okay with 75%.
Yeah. I think it's a hard concept to grasp. And, I was actually really, really surprised, but our head honcho, if you will, I don't know his actual title. I think it's just director, like overall director of our agency.
Chief.
Yeah. um, but I kind of wonder if he's an introvert. But when we got the governor's like letter, and he did like an impromptu all staff, just so that he likes to do that so that rumors can't spread. So he tries to like get it right away. But one of the first things he said was, "I understand that going back to office, you will not be as productive, and that is not our expectation for you." And I was like, "Thank God." Because that is absolutely true. We will not be as productive. And he recognized that. And so I think that helped a lot of people to know that they're not like us management are expecting them to be at 100% where in the office, because it's just impossible. There's too many, things going on, too many distractions. And they really are just trying to promote. I mean, there's also the conspiracy, obviously, of like, the money and the butts and seats kind of thing. But I think, at least for my agency, they're trying to promote more of like the human aspect, us being connected again and us seeing each other again. So I'm glad they're going that route, and being more people centric versus like, data and productivity and whatever.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think that's why you need introverted leaders, because the more introverted leaders that you have, the better you get situations like this where that person recognizes that you're not just going to do the same things that you did. Because an extrovert will be just as productive, because they're probably talking on the phone or doing video calls with people a lot more than you would have been. So they'll probably be just as productive. But your introverted folks are going to, and it's that kind of that self-worth sense as well, that, oh, I haven't done 100 things, I've only done 75. What are people going to think? And if your big cheese lays the ground out and says you're not going to be as productive, don't worry about it, then it feels like, oh, I can.
And I really appreciate that, because so he's like over the agency, but my project director, who's over like our project, she's a people person. She's extroverted through and through. She's all about going back. If I think, because we only have to go twice a week, but I think she might go in every day, to be honest. But I am noticing like she's not as flexible as I would like hope she would be. But that, I think it's because she values it, and she thinks she sees a lot of more value of people going in. But I think she's just not understanding what it means for a lot of people to go in. Because I've had my people, my staff, other staff, even the other managers express like how much anxiety and stress. Like my one coworker, she has so much anxiety and stress that she like was getting all these really terrible migraines, and the doctor did a bunch of tests, and it's stress related. It's purely stress related. It's her body reacting to this news of having to like go back. And I think a lot of people can learn that, everyone's different. Like there's the extroverts who are really happy to go back, and may find like yourself, was really depressed during the pandemic, versus the introverts who thrived and now are having this major anxiety and stress to go back. And so we need a balance. We got to be flexible in that way.
Yeah, and I think probably if it was me, the things that I would be trying to understand is why that she's feeling so anxious, and like what is it? Is it the journey to work? Is it the actual, because a lot of places are open plan offices, which are terrible for introverted people. Put the radio on, the phones are ringing, people are talking. It can be a nightmare. So even if it was a case of, like she's worried about her productivity, or she's worried about, um, the noise, because she finds it hard to concentrate. They do these, I don't know if you've seen them, but they have them for my sister-in-law. She has ADHD, and they're like earplugs, like you'd listen to your music
Mm-hmm.
on, but they block out certain kinds of noise.
Oh yeah, I've seen
And
those on
yeah,
Instagram
and
now.
they're really yeah, and they sell them on
Yeah.
Amazon. But they're really good for people, and if we can try and find these, like understand what the problem is, why she's feeling so upset about it, and because if it is the noise, we can do things, or can she sit somewhere else, or like something, because there's got to be a trigger for her. And if you can figure out what that is, a lot of the times it's not a massive change that you need to do. It might just be you need to get her some earphones that block out some noise, that will just chill her out. Or if she doesn't like people just coming up and interrupting her, which is a terrible thing for introverts, because they're doing deep work often, thinking about stuff, really in the zone, and then some idiot like me comes up and goes, "Hey, I've not seen you all week. um, um, and if you even getting like things like little signs that say I'm busy, I'll like send me an email and I'll come over to you when I'm done. Just how can you deal with the issues that they think are the problems? Because not a lot of stuff is figure outable.
Yeah.
It can be fixed.
Yeah. So we're in that little turmoil right now, trying to figure that out. We just started, and then officially next. So we started with 1 day a week, and so we're officially at twice a week starting next week. So we'll see. My staff is freaking out, and I'm trying to make it calm, trying to like be serene and like answer their questions and be very flexible and all that. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's a different world now, isn't it?
It
Like
is.
post pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
it really is a world. And even like I don't know about what you've seen with your younger people, but certainly in the UK, our Gen Zers, what we call them now, are they don't want the life that their parents had. They want to live their life, and it's not a bad thing. Like the generations before us were chained to their desk for 40 hours a week. Like that's not life, is it? Uh, there's got to be something better.
Yeah, I think because I'm a millennial, and I feel like I'm like the in between, because the younger generation, I'm like, they have no work ethic. But then the older generation's like all butts and seats and like, you have to be chained to your desk. And so I'm trying to so I'm like somewhere in the middle, trying to like figure that out and navigate. Like I only have one young staff member, and I hopefully am hopefully I'm mentoring her properly through this. Like it is like I think it's her first like real job out of college, so we'll see how that goes too.
You're doing an amazing job. Very lucky to have you.
Thank you. All right. So I know we're almost at the hour mark, but I want to make sure that you had enough time to, plug anything, socials, website, your business, and like any last message you'd like to share with the listeners.
I think my last message would be to do whatever you can to understand yourself. So there's a really cool website called 16personalities.com. It's 16personalities.com. And you can do a personality test and it will tell you a little bit about your strengths, your weaknesses, who you are, that sort of thing. And the more stuff that you can do to understand who you are, the better you'll find in the world. If you're doing something that doesn't feel good, then it's probably because it's not good and you're pushing yourself in a direction that you shouldn't be. So just get to know yourself more. I think would be my top tip for life. And you can find me on LinkedIn and all the other socials, and the details will be in the show notes.
Perfect. Well, I really appreciate having you on. This is a great conversation. I didn't know what to expect. We didn't meet each other beforehand, which is what I like to do. I stopped doing like the pre-meetings and I just, it's a surprise every time. But
especially when I was an extrovert,
yeah,
right?
no, that definitely took me back because like all the coaches I've talked to in the past who coach other introverts are introverts themselves who, found the secret sauce, if you will. And that's why they're like teaching other introverts the ways. So, but I love that you are an extrovert and you found a liking to us introverts and, are trying to help us.
I feel like they're my people.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad. Oh, but yeah. Well, thank you. It's been awesome talking to you, and hopefully people found some good tips throughout this episode.
Thank you.